Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Crime and Coffee Couple. My name's Allison.
And my name's Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, Al. How you doing, babe?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Oh, good. Feeling really good because we just got up from our date night last night.
We did. We went to Cooper's Hawk for dinner.
When's the last time we had a date?
Not too long ago, we went to see Nate Bargatze.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so this was kind of nice getting out of the house, and so, had some nice Brussels sprouts. I had steak. You had shrimp and scallops, which was weird because you don't usually order seafood.
I know. I was, throwing you a curveball.
Yeah, and I ended up eating most of your seafood, I would say.
Probably. And I liked your steak.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny how
Mike
that worked.
had a Parmesan crusted steak, and it had like this thick layer of delicious Parmesan that I just wanted to like rub all over my face.
Yeah, I could tell, and that's why I kept feeding you. I was
my gosh.
Another bite.
It was the best.
Yeah.
The best thing ever.
Yeah, it was good. So real quick, welcome to the show. And hey, if you want to support us, we have our Patreon in the links in the show notes, or you can become an Apple subscriber, either way. And there's also a free trial on Apple. So if you're an Apple listener or have an Apple device, you can trial all the bonus episodes. There are like 40 of them.
Yeah,
so
there's a lot.
Give them a shout. And then if you don't have the money to support us, then you can always just subscribe to us on YouTube, on any listening platform that you're listening on right now. Just make sure you subscribe, and that way everybody knows, hey, these guys are worth listening to.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And thank you guys, even just for being here. We appreciate you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So what else is going on?
I know I mentioned, I think maybe 2 weeks ago, I had gone to the dermatologist finally after skipping a year. And they did a couple biopsies, and the one on my ear, I just kind of knew it was going to be something. And of course, they called. It's basal cell cancer. So I have to go for a procedure in a little over a week. It's called a Mohs procedure, and they basically take layer by layer off until the margins are clear and the abnormal cells are gone.
Margins meaning, so they keep on testing each layer until it's like no cancer is seen.
Yeah, they're like, just block the day out because we don't know how many layers we have to take. And then I have to come back the next day and have it closed, what they said.
Yeah.
And then my back came back as precancerous, so I have to have more taken off there too.
So you're going to have craters all over the place.
Yeah, just as long as it's taken care of. That's all I care.
Absolutely. And it's a good reminder to anybody else out there. Go get yourself checked out.
It's true because, you slack on it like I did, and now all of a sudden there's these curveballs. But
yeah.
What are you going to do?
Hoping for the best. So
exactly.
Positive thoughts would be very much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah.
And then
you're I feel like kind of a schlub over here because I'm wearing like a crappy t-shirt from Old Navy that I got like 10 years ago. You could check us out on YouTube and see my crappy shirt. And you just got your hair did, and you look like very, very delicious.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I got some length cut off, so my hair's kind of short. I just, it's so much easier to do when it's short. And it was just so funny because when you're getting your hair like colored and cut and highlighted, it's like you're at the salon for a long time, and it was right at lunchtime. And then our daughter was meeting me at the salon to get her hair cut. So Mike was going to drop her off. And I'm like, oh, do you think you can make me a quick salami sandwich just so I'm not starving? And our daughter, Reese, walks in with a cooler, like a decent sized cooler. And
I didn't know what you expect. Like, did you expect a little sack of something, like a brown bag lunch?
Like literally just a Ziploc sandwich bag with a sandwich. But it was so sweet. Mike put a cooler together. We were all laughing. And it had like a Topo Chico glass bottle. He packed a wine opener for the Topo Chico.
I was kind of pissed. You didn't use it. You didn't open it and drink it.
Well, I'm drinking it now.
You are drinking it.
So
now.
you're good.
Okay.
And chips and what else did you put in there?
Well, I had your little flavor packets that we've mentioned before.
Yeah, the dehydrated crystallized fruit you put in your drinks.
I had a bottle opener just to make sure you can open that Topo Chico.
It was very sweet.
It was like all thought for. I thought just pictured you sitting there like, just drinking your little drink and having a good time and chatting it up with the gals while you're like taking out half a mortgage to pay for your hair.
Yeah, it is a half a mortgage. But the people in the salon were laughing when they saw Reese walk in with a cooler.
Yeah. Oh.
So we'll post a picture because Reese took a picture of me with the cooler at the salon.
Ooh, and we have a picture of you enjoying the dessert that we had at Cooper's Hawk. Should we put that too?
It was so good. It was
that
like
was awesome.
the s'mores layered thing.
S'mores budino, I believe.
Budino.
I can't remember anything. Like now that I'm 44, almost 45, if you're having a conversation with me, half the time I forget a word or a person's name. Like I'm somebody even as big as like Tom Cruise or something like that.
Yeah, me too.
I'm just like, that guy that was in Pulp Fiction and you know him. He's like a huge actor. Like everybody
John
would know him.
Travolta?
Yes, that guy. So yeah, that's me.
So yeah, the dessert. Oh, like the last thing I needed at the end of that huge heavy meal was a friggin' dessert. But we ordered it and it was delicious. And I came home and I was like, oh, I got to get my fat pants on.
Like a big s'mores in a cup. It
was
delicious.
pretty. It was like layered.
Yeah.
It was really nice.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you don't have anything else to add. We'll go on and get started here. So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a warning. This is a really rough case. Listen with care. It does involve sexual assault. So this is the murders of Elizabeth Pena and Jennifer Ertman. So it was June 24th, 1993, and two teenage best friends were going to a friend's pool party, and they never came home. Their parents told them that they loved them as they parted ways. They expected to see them later that night, never fathoming it would be the last time they would ever see their daughters alive again. So Elizabeth Christine Pena was born on June 21st, 1977 in Houston, Texas, to parents Adolph and Melissa. She had a younger brother and sister. This is Michael and Rachel. Elizabeth was described as an extremely sweet girl. She was always smiling. She was a typical teen. She loved to get her nails done, hang out with her friends, chat on the phone. If they weren't together, they were talking on the phone. When Elizabeth met her best friend, Jennifer, at Waltrip High School, they immediately clicked and they were just fast friends. So Jennifer Lee Ertman was born on August 15th, 1978, also in Houston, to parents Randy and Sarah. And unlike her friend, she did not have any siblings. She was the only child. She was absolutely the apple of her father's eye. She could do no wrong in her father Randy's eyes. The two were just extremely close. She was described as a funny person who people just loved to be around, and she absolutely adored the New Kids on the Block, much as in the 90s, I think most girls.
And to some guys, so I did have it written on like a clipboard that I had, NKOTB. And that was the same time as Fine Young Cannibals, FYC. I put that on there. I'm so embarrassed of it.
So you like the New Kids on the Block?
Yeah, yeah.
And I keep saying the New Kids on the Block, but it's just New Kids on the Block.
Yeah, well, they were hanging tough, and that was pretty tough.
They were absolutely hanging tough.
Yeah.
So Jennifer loved them like many girls did. She had a room full of posters of the group.
I mean, I didn't have posters or anything, but that's besides the point.
That's okay if you did. So she was a rule follower. She was a great student. Her parents were strict with their rules, but they did trust their daughter. When Elizabeth and Jennifer met, they were a year apart in age, but both sets of families, they absolutely approved of their friendship. They thought they were great together. Elizabeth's father, Adolph, saw Jennifer as a modest girl. She was a positive influence to his daughter. Shortly after they met, Elizabeth's behavior started to improve. She went through just a brief streak of teenage rebellion before she enrolled in 1992 to that school. So when the girls were invited to the pool party on the hot summer night of Thursday, June 24th, 1993, 14-year-old Jennifer's dad, Randy, drove his daughter to 16-year-old Elizabeth's house at 4:15 p.m. Elizabeth had only just celebrated her 16th birthday 3 days earlier. At approximately 8 p.m., Elizabeth's mom and dad drove the girls to the home of their friend, Gina Escamilla, who was hosting a gathering at her Spring Hill apartment complex. At this point, Jennifer and Elizabeth had been friends for about 2 to 3 years, and their lives were just beginning.
Spring Hill, what state?
They're in Houston.
Okay.
So as the girls were stepping out of the car, Elizabeth assured her parents that she and Jennifer would be home by their agreed curfew time of 11:30 p.m.
So they got 3.5 hours.
Yeah. So not a long time, but they're just hanging out in the summer, cooling off, because it was, they said, like exceptionally hot weather at this time. The apartment where the pool party was held was close enough to Elizabeth's home that the girls just planned to walk back. So Elizabeth, had recently gotten back from a family vacation in Florida. She loved the beach, so she had an absolute blast. Her dad said he looks back at their drive back to Houston from Florida with such fondness because he remembers specifically looking in the rearview mirror of the car as they drove and seeing his daughter's face and just how happy she was. And really, as a parent, what makes you happier than your child's happiness? Not much.
We can all think of little times like that, and it brings a smile to our faces.
So she had just gotten back. She was excited to catch up with her friends as she showed them what she had also gotten with the money that she was given for her 16th birthday. She had gotten a new pager and some clothes.
Pagers are big back then,
Huge.
man.
I never did have a pager.
I didn't either.
No.
Yeah, but you had the little colors and stuff. And my brother had like a light blue one you could like see through. Big times.
So as the party went on, the girls were having so much fun that they actually lost track of time and they're kind of scrambling, thinking, crap, we're going to be late for our 11:30 p.m. curfew. So now they're trying to rush. So rather than taking their planned route home that they were going to take on the well-lit streets, they decided to take a shortcut, which would save them about 10 minutes. They would be following the railroad tracks, passing through T.C. Jester Park, which was a mile from Elizabeth's home in Oak Forest. During the day, the park served as a hot spot for cyclists and runners. It was packed with people being active and getting their exercise in. But of course, at this time, I'm guessing it's like 11:15-ish. Were deserted. It's dark out.
Yeah.
So when Elizabeth and Jennifer did not make it home that night, their parents immediately began calling around to their friends. Obviously, they knew where they were going to be that night, so they contacted those friends to see if they knew where the girls were. But of course, they were told, no, they were rushing home to get there by their curfew for 11:30. That's the last time we saw them. So at this point, they knew something must be terribly wrong. So they contacted the Houston Police Department. They reported the girls missing. Because law enforcement was inundated with hundreds of homicide cases in the Houston area at the time, the search for Elizabeth and Jennifer was delayed. They simply did not have the manpower. So her family and friends, their family and friends are taking it upon themselves to print their own missing person sheets, disperse them all over, and frantically search for the girls.
Well, yeah, because anybody can do that. Put stuff all over the place. I mean, yeah, that's horrible. You go to the police and they're like, sorry, we've got like 100 different cases we're currently searching. Just honestly, and you'd rather hear that from them. Like, honestly, we're not gonna be able to get to this soon. I'm really sorry. We want to, but where do you place them in order?
How do you? Yeah. No, not one human is more important than another, sadly.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until June 28th, which is 4 days after they left the party, that an anonymous caller came through to Crime Stoppers. It was a man. He identified himself as Gonzalez, and the information of what he said was that he could tell them where to find Elizabeth and Jennifer's bodies. Investigators began searching the area as a helicopter flew overhead, though their bodies weren't found. And this Gonzalez that's calling, realizes that they're not finding it based on what he's told them. So at this point in time, he called back. He dialed 911. He directed the searchers to the other side of the bayou. He basically said, you guys are looking in the wrong spot. So with this phone call, his identity was actually discovered. The call was able to be traced.
Nice.
So the information provided on the second contact was correct, and the girls' bodies were tragically found in T.C. Jester Park in a wooded area near the railroad tracks. This was that 10 minutes it was going to save them to get home, and sadly, they ended up being in the absolute wrong place at the wrong time with the horrifically wrong people.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Both were partially nude, and because of the extremely hot weather at that point in time, their body, despite the fact that only 4 days had gone by, they were extensively decomposed at this point in time. So because of that, they needed to be identified with the use of dental records.
Holy cow.
At the time of the discovery, Randy Ertman, Jennifer's dad, was actually like right over there, and he was preparing to give an interview about the missing girls when the call came through that the police scanner said that they had found 2 bodies. So I watched the video of the moment he's hearing this, and Randy began to scream at police officers. He's basically running down the hill to where the officers are kind of going towards, demanding to know if one of the girls had blonde hair. Police officers had to hold him back, preventing him from witnessing the sight of his daughter's brutalized body.
That'd be so hard to see.
Oh, so he was stopped, thank goodness. Both victims had been sexually assaulted and strangled to death.
My God. Just like you said, going out to a pool party and just happen to take the wrong turn, and not even taking the wrong turn, taking a shortcut, and here they are. Both
and
dead.
They should be allowed to do such a thing and come home safely. Police who were accustomed, this is a kind of an area where they're accustomed to a lot of homicides, hence, Jennifer and Elizabeth not even being able to be searched for at that point in time.
The backlog, yeah, add them to the list. It's like, so I was going to ask you, is this a pretty bad area?
It sounds like, based on the fact of what they were saying, that they couldn't even get to their search.
Are there people online, when you do this research, are there people online saying like they should have been walking home?
No, not that I saw of. No, absolutely not. So these policemen and women are accustomed to grisly findings, but despite that, they were shell-shocked by the brutality that the girls were subjected to. They were unable to fathom that someone could do such a thing, let alone what they would soon learn was a group of teenage boys.
What?
Yes. You won't even believe this.
I'm not looking forward to this at all.
Police turned their attention to the previously anonymous caller who was identifying himself as Gonzalez, but this was actually Joe Cantu. He was a Houston Heights resident. Joe told police that he and his wife were at home the night that Elizabeth and Jennifer disappeared. They were just having a low-key Thursday night. They were watching TV when Joe's 18-year-old brother, Peter Cantu, who lived with them, came home with a group of male friends. Joe said he made the first call after his wife, Christina Cantu, urged him to do so because she felt sorry for the victims' families. She wanted them to be able to recover their bodies and lay their daughters to rest. When the group of boys came back to Joe's house, they were laughing and bragging about what they had done to the girls. They also had their jewelry in their possession.
Like, what the hell?
This is sick.
Who brags and, like, I mean, one, you're effing sickos, and then two, like, you're laughing and bragging like it's some kind of a prank or something. Like, you took people's lives. It's insane.
Yep. They thought this was just really funny. So Peter Cantu was the group's leader of their so-called self-proclaimed black and white gang. The other members included 18-year-old Jose Ernesto Medina, Jose's brother, 14-year-old Venancio Medina, 17-year-old Efrain Perez, 18-year-old Derek Sean O'Brien, and 17-year-old Raul Omar Villarreal. The group of six were also with another pair of brothers. This is Roman and Frank Sandoval, but they took off when they began to attack the girls. They never reported what happened to authorities, but they did later testify during the trials. So after Joe made the phone calls to police, they arrived at all the suspects' homes simultaneously. So they arranged that all the police officers were dispersed to each of the six homes, not even homes because some were brothers, but that they could not self-report, hey, they're coming for you, run.
Yeah.
So they did it all in one fell swoop.
Smart.
So when they found Peter Cantu, he was just kind of like laying on his bed in the room, and he, in plain sight, had the girl's jewelry right on his dresser.
Perfect,
right there.
Perfect. So police are like, thank you, dumbass, and you're coming with us.
And Derek O'Brien's house was within walking distance to the crime scene. Police found a torn red belt that matched the partial piece that was found near the girls' bodies.
Perfect.
They also learned that O'Brien had later returned to the scene of the crime. So what happened was when people got word, because it was aware that these girls were missing, and when they heard that they had found two bodies in the area, all sorts of onlookers gathered right at the train tracks. So one of the police officers thought, I've heard that people return to the scene of the crime. Take a video and pictures of the people that are gathered there. And there, right in plain sight, was Sean O'Brien.
Smart.
So he came to look to see like what his handiwork was as the girls' bodies were tragically recovered. So that was just like a side thing that they had found.
Gross.
So, excuse me, they saw him looking there. Okay, so also in addition to Peter Cantu, they saw the jewelry right there on his dresser. They also found a pair of steel toe boots that laid on his bedroom floor. These come back around in what happened too.
Great.
14-year-old Venancio was charged as a juvenile, despite being only 14. But the rest,
a juvenile? Okay.
But the rest were, I think I kind of put the emphasis on that incorrectly, so don't mind me.
No, I just want to make sure.
So the others, some were under 18. They were all charged as adults. He, being the youngest, was charged as a juvenile.
Okay.
So upon questioning, the group began to crack, and as many do in a group thing like this, they all start pointing, this one did that, this one did that, and they open book.
Because you know what the cops are doing. They're all saying, oh, you know what? Jose just told us the whole story, so we're only going to let the first three off. So is it going to be you, or is it going to be Efren, or who is it going to be? Because you're going to jail either way. So you better come fess up.
Yeah, and I don't know if I specified, but the rest that were charged as adults, they were charged with capital murder. So again, they're cracking, and then the police are soon learning the fates of the girls on the tragic night that they were sexually assaulted and murdered. As Jennifer and Elizabeth walked along the White Oak Bayou Trail, they were kind of walking, following the train tracks. They came upon members of the Black and White gang who just so happened to be holding a gang initiation ceremony for 17-year-old Raul Villarreal. During the ceremony, Raul was to fight each member of the gang in order to be accepted as a member himself. Testimony indicated that he was able to get through fighting 3 members before he eventually lost consciousness. So this is all happening in that spot before the girls came upon them. So as he lay on the ground, writhing in pain, the gang members went off to the side to discuss if he should be accepted as a member. And minutes later, Peter Cantu told Raul that he was officially welcome to be part of this lovely gang.
So this is like a real gang.
They're calling themselves a gang, yes.
Oh.
I mean, it's 14 to 18-year-olds.
Gross.
So about 40 minutes later, they sat around drinking, and this was the time when Jennifer and Elizabeth just happened to walk past them. Jose Medin tried to grope and pinch Elizabeth's breasts, but she pushed his hand aside and continued on. In response, he put his arm around her neck, threw her to the ground, and dragged her down a gravel hill towards the other members of the gang as she screamed for help. He forced her to remove her underwear. The other gang members indicated that at this point, Jennifer could have absolutely easily run away and escaped, but she chose to stay and help her friend. She couldn't leave her. She couldn't do it.
Oh, that's nice.
So as Jennifer approached the group, Peter Cantu and Derek O'Brien threw her to the ground, and for the next hour, both girls were subjected to a brutal gang rape. It was one of the most horrific gang rapes that investigating officers had ever seen in the history of their careers. And this is done by teenagers.
Absolutely sickening.
So their confessions were used during the trial and indicated that there were never less than 2 men on each of the girls at any given time during their attack. They were absolutely brutalized for an hour.
Man, I hope they're all like sentenced to death and hopefully dead already, but I'm sure that's not going to happen.
During the entire hour of attack, they were being brutally sexually assaulted. There are so many details that I refuse to even talk about on this podcast.
Yeah.
They had no remorse. Obviously, they didn't. When they went back to Joe Cantu's house, they were laughing and joking and openly telling Peter's brother and sister-in-law what they had done.
I mean, thank God for stupid criminals, man. I say it every time. It's like, you keep your mouths open and keep on yapping about it and how cool you are when you just committed like one of the worst crimes you could think of. The worst, like rape and murder. I mean, those are the 2 of the worst. And it's just like, you're like laughing like this is like some little thing here. Like,
right.
I don't know, like almost like you got away with like a speeding ticket or something. Like, oh man, I outran the cop, and it's like, this is like a horrible thing. You're going straight to hell, and before that, you're gonna, suffer. Hopefully,
just awful. And there's no remorse. One member even boasted of having virgin blood on him.
Jesus.
14-year-old Venancio Medin later testified that he had gone back and forth between his brother and Peter Cantu. They were the only 2 members of the group that he really knew, and he kept trying to tell them, let's just go, let's just go. Instead, Peter was urging him to get some. So what does Venancio do? 14-year-old Venancio? He goes on to rape Jennifer. So after an hour that the girl sustained being brutally raped by 6 men, the horror wasn't even over yet. Knowing that the girls would be able to identify them at this point, Peter, who again is the supposed group leader, ordered them to be killed. The girls were taken from the clearing to a wooded area. They left Venancio behind because he was too little to watch.
Yeah, okay. Old enough to rape and sexually assault, but no, this is where we cut it off.
Yeah, they were
very responsible.
Really responsible. Raul ordered the girls to their knees, and Jennifer was strangled first. They used Derek O'Brien's belt. Raul and Derek held each end of the belt and pulled with such force that it snapped. And we know that they left the one half at the crime scene. The other half was taken back to Derek's house.
Why would you keep it? You're so stupid.
But some people like to have that, trophies.
How stupid it is. So this is a horrible, horrible thing.
So because the belt snapped, they finished the job using Jennifer's own shoelaces from her purple Converse high tops, as well as strangling her with their hands. And then Jose Medin later complained that the B word wouldn't die and said that it would have been easier had they just had a gun. Meanwhile, Elizabeth was sobbing and begging the group to please just spare their lives, bargaining, offering to give them her phone number so that they could call and get back together again. The medical examiner later testified that Elizabeth's 2 front teeth had been knocked out by Peter's steel toe work boots that they had found on his bedroom floor before she was then strangled to death with her shoelaces.
That's insane.
She suffered from fractured ribs when she tried to escape while Jennifer was being strangled. 2 of Jennifer's ribs had also been fractured, and testimony indicated that after they were strangled, the gang members were just kicking their bodies, stomping on their necks to be sure that they were really dead. As they walked away from the crime scene, Peter handed Venancio a cartoon Goofy watch that he had taken from Jennifer's body, saying, "Take this, I don't want it." This was a present she had just been given months earlier by her family at Christmas, and it really symbolizes their innocence and youth. It was this, adorable little Disney Goofy watch because she was a 14-year-old girl, the same age as the boy who raped her, 14.
It's just stories like this, like you wish it was just a movie or something, and just like you can get out of it and stop the movie and just be like, this movie sucks. But it's like, no, this is actually somebody's life that this happened to. 2 sweet girls that, had their whole lives ahead of them. Like a lot of these stories, unfortunately. It's just, my brain just saying like, stop. Like, stop. Like it keeps going. It gets like worse and worse and worse. Like, where do these people come from? How does this happen?
How do they find each other? And that's what nobody could believe when they found these kids and showed their faces. Like, how does evil like this exist? How do they find each other? And there's such a sad picture of when Randy Ertman is near the scene when they, discover that 2 bodies are down there, and he's sitting on the train tracks right at the spot where his daughter was found, like, and attacked at that point. And he's just sobbing in his hands, and you could just like feel his pain. Just looking at the photo, you feel it.
Yeah.
It's like a gut punch.
Much worse, probably.
My gosh.
Can't even fathom it. You just sit there wondering, like, what's life worth living anymore? Like, this was my little baby.
Their only daughter.
Apple of my eye.
Their only child.
Everything. And, like, everything we wanted to do was for her, and now she's gone because these absolute sickening psychopaths. Like, how are you supposed to keep on living? You got to go to, obviously, therapy right away and try to find some kind of solace.
Just so painful. So after the attack and murder, Peter dropped Jose, Efren, and Raul off at his brother and sister-in-law's house. Christina asked Raul why he was bleeding and why Efren's shirt had blood on it. This prompted Jose to tell her that they had fun, and they had also elaborated that they had raped both girls. And soon Joe and Christina are seeing the faces of the missing girls on the news and thinking, oh my goodness, they actually did this.
Yeah, like they weren't just talking. Like,
yes.
Just like, oh yeah, it's like, okay, you psychos, don't talk like that. And it's like, you did. You actually killed and raped 2 girls. Like, you did this. We have to turn you in.
We have to turn you in. And one of the things said that like Christina was actually scared of Joe. And I mean, for Peter.
Of course, because he's capable of anything, obviously.
Like generally speaking, even before this happened, she was definitely afraid of him. So when Peter came back to the house, the group is now divvying up the items that they had taken from the girls. Jose took a ring with an E in it so that he could give it to his girlfriend, Esther. When the group left the Cantu home, Christina is then saying, you have got to call the police about this, despite the fact that this is your brother. So the elected district attorney opted to have 5 separate trials, one for each subject charged as an adult, because we know there were 6 altogether. So this required 5 different judges. This was something they had never dealt with before. The same witnesses over and over again, the same police, the same medical examiner. The trials for Jose, Efren, and Raul were held in 3 separate courtrooms in the same courthouse at the exact same time with different judges and jurors so that the witnesses didn't have to just keep coming back and, prolonging the pain and suffering for the families. So what they did was they divided themselves up in different courtrooms. Like one wife went here, one husband went there, so that they can spread themselves out amongst the courtrooms that were all happening at the same time.
So why'd they decide to charge them all separately?
I don't know exactly why that decision was made. I'm not sure. So gang leader Peter Cantu's trial began on January 31st, 1994. This was 6 months after Elizabeth and Jennifer were murdered. The trials gained massive media attention that gave a court a circus-like atmosphere. Peter's brother Joe was one of the witnesses to take the stand. Jurors were able to see the crime scene photos, and prosecutor Marie Munier said that she had never seen anything so disturbing, and she remembers seeing the images in her sleep. It was something she just could not get over.
Thank God Joe and Christina came forward.
They probably would have never been caught.
I bet you they would have, because they were stupid.
And they would have
talked,
bragged.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, this is your family, and like, if your own family turns you in, then you got to be able, like, that's a great, person to bring up and testify against them. It's like, he came in and he was laughing. He's my brother. This is a hard thing for me to do, but he needs to suffer for this.
And you got to wonder, like, what went on in his life to make him such a monster?
Like we say, there's a lot of people with a lot of bad stories that don't end up killing and raping people. So I don't know. It's whatever it is. It's like some kind of screw is loose.
So it was learned that Peter's life of crime began when he was in only elementary school. He had assaulted a female teacher in elementary school. People, this is 5th grade and under. Nice. And then he bullied her. This resulted in him being kicked out of school. Throughout the trial, he was often seen smiling. I saw these videos. I saw these images. He looked like, in my view, like he was kind of just going to a picnic in the park. That's what he looked like.
Like the Joker and Batman, just kind of like sitting there and enjoying everybody go crazy. It's just like, man, he's got to pay.
He was pleased.
This is Texas. I can't see any outcome other than like all of them getting death penalty.
Seeing him smile in the courtroom made my stomach flip. His own lawyers worried about his behavior. He was a loose cannon. During his arrest, as he was led away in handcuffs, it maybe wasn't even in his arrest, but he's being led around in handcuffs and the media is all around him trying to film him and whatnot. He is violently kicking like a bucking bronco, like basically taking his arms and putting them back in people's hands that are holding his elbows and using that leverage to kick up at the media. A wild animal. Animals don't act like this, let alone human people.
Well, the media is probably feeding into it like, oh, you think you're going to get us? And then, trying to get good pictures and stuff. And it's just like, this guy's a loose cannon, like you said.
So it was never a question if he would be found guilty, but rather, would he be sentenced to death?
Right.
So before his sentencing, both sets of parents were given the opportunity to address Peter and Randy. Jennifer's father, they asked Peter and Randy, why am I saying... Okay, let me rephrase that, people. I'm sorry. So they asked the parents if they wanted to address Peter, and Randy did agree so. So he stood up and with a booming voice, this was very powerful to watch, he demanded that Peter look at him while he spoke.
Peter, the brother that didn't do it?
No, Peter is the criminal.
Oh, okay.
Peter's the Joe. Gotcha, Joe is the one that turned his brother in.
Sorry.
So Peter is the criminal who killed the ringleader who killed his daughter. So Randy is standing in the courtroom and he is screaming because, of course, this coward is looking down and he's screaming, "Look at me." And it was an intimidating presence. So this coward, Peter, of course, he turns and does look. And, he tells him, "You are not even an animal. You have destroyed our lives. And I hope to God you rot in hell." And this is interesting. This actually paved the way for future victim impact statements in Texas. Randy was the very first person to ever give a victim impact statement in Texas.
Really?
Yeah. And I think that's really important to be able to stand up and say what you have on your heart.
That's the least you can do if somebody wants to do that, because this person, especially after they are confirmed that they're guilty.
Yeah,
it's like, this person took somebody you love's life, and you can't say something to
they took everything from them. Yeah, everything.
That's the least you can do, is let them talk to them.
So during the trial, it came out that both girls had tried to unsuccessfully fight for their lives, hence these boys coming back with blood on them. It wasn't just the girls' blood, it was also their blood. They fought for their lives, and they were glancing at each other in despair while they were being attacked only feet away from each other. Oh, it just so it hurts my soul to even talk about this case, but their story is important. They bit at their attackers. They kicked them. They scratched them. As Elizabeth glanced over and saw her best friend being raped by Efren Perez, she wept with grief for her friend. These two girls loved each other. Hence the reason why Jennifer could have got away and she couldn't. She couldn't leave her friend.
How do we know all this, by the way?
Because the boys,
told them that?
Yes.
That sucks.
So Peter Cantu, Jose Medin, Derek O'Brien, and Efren Perez and Raul Villarreal each received a death sentence for capital murder.
Nice.
This was the most death penalties in a single incident.
So wait, all of them? Peter, Jose, Efren, Derek, Raul?
Yes.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So
All five.
and then of course we know the 14-year-old can't.
Right.
So they all received the death penalty. 14-year-old Venancio Medin, Jose's brother, testified against 4 of the gang members, all except for his brother. He received a 40-year prison sentence. This is the maximum for a juvenile for sexual assault of Jennifer Ertman.
Oh, that's fantastic. Good for them. Good job on the courts
So
and everybody involved.
within 16 months of the horrific murders, justice had been served to all 6 monsters.
Really? All dead?
No, justice had been
Okay.
served.
Okay.
So everything was closed after about 16 months.
Because I know the death penalties take a long time.
Yeah, they do. And they did. So now in 2005, the Supreme Court banned executions for those who committed crimes while under age 18. Therefore, the death sentences for Efren Perez and Raul Villarreal were automatically changed to life in prison with the possibility of parole. So they are sentenced to death. Now they have a chance to get out of prison. Life without parole did not become an option in Texas until later that same year. So they
That's
fell
crazy.
through a loophole.
That's crazy how they have, like, you think they would have crossed their T's and dotted their I's before they did that.
Well, Efren will be eligible for parole on October 10th, 2029. That is 5 years from now.
And you know, there's like the whole state of Texas is going to be there saying, like, you better not be getting out.
Let's hope.
Yeah, I'm sure they won't. Like, Texas is a place you can kind of trust that,
Like,
you know,
don't F with your
like,
people.
well, just like, yeah, they're going to kind of carry out these sentences for a while. Yeah.
So Raul will be eligible September 20th, 2029. And that is not far from now. And keep in mind, these people were teenagers at this point and they were monsters. Derek O'Brien and Jose Medin were later implicated in the January 4th, 1993 murder of 27-year-old Patricia Lopez. This was not the first time they had done what they had done.
That's why they were so, like, laissez-faire about it, you know, just like, oh, just another one, add it to the list.
So what happened to 27-year-old Patricia Lopez was 6 months before what happened to Jennifer and Elizabeth. The mother of two's partially nude body had been found in Melrose Park, and Derek attempted to rape Patricia before he stabbed her in the abdomen, neck, and back. It was brutal, absolutely brutal, the way her body was found. He gave a taped confession that he was there when Patricia was murdered, but he was too drunk to know who did what. Jose's DNA was a match for what was found on Patricia's body, and Derek's fingerprints were found on a beer can at the scene. She was so brutalized that she had been disemboweled, found in the park. This was a mother of 2 young children.
Jeez.
These are monsters.
Absolutely.
They were never charged with Patricia's murder, but her case was factored in to their sentencings at the trials.
Good.
So Elizabeth and Jennifer's parents successfully advocated for the state of Texas to allow victims' relatives to be present at the time of the executions, because at the time there was a policy in place that did not allow family members to be there, and they wanted to be there.
Like, I can see if they don't want to be there, that's okay. But if they want to be there, man, like, that, again, that's the least you could do. These sons of bitches, like, took the life of people. Like, hey, really anything should happen. As far as I'm concerned, their lives are close to worthless, you know? Like, they thought that somebody else's life was worthless, and
Was nothing.
Guess what? Now yours means nothing.
Those girls' lives were nothing to those boys.
Now, I'm not saying we should kill every single murderer or shouldn't. I'm not strong either one way or the other. But I'd say this. I'm totally happy with the scenario for Peter here and whoever else.
So-
Raul.
And Derek.
Okay.
So Derek O'Brien was a 9th grade dropout with a criminal history. We know he was implicated in Patricia's death. He was first to be executed on July 11th, 2006 by lethal injection. He apologized profusely before his execution, saying, "I am so sorry. I have always been sorry. It was the worst mistake I have ever made in my whole life." And again, this is not the first time he did what he did. He had viciously helped murder another person before.
This was Jose?
No, this is Derek.
Derek, okay.
Yes. So he said, not because I'm here, but because of what I did. I hurt a lot of people, you and my family. He spoke to the victims' families before being given the injection. He was pronounced dead at 6:19 p.m., 7 minutes later. Elizabeth's father noted that Derek's death happened peacefully. He basically fell asleep, and according to him, it happened in about 20 seconds versus the suffering that his daughter was subjected to before she died. Being brutally beaten, kicked, stomped on, and raped for over an hour, he got to go to sleep and not wake up. So, as happy as he was that this person was gone from the world, he doesn't find that was good enough, really, in a way.
You can probably take some solace in knowing that he was probably scared for weeks and weeks, knowing that the date was coming up, that he was dead.
Yeah.
So, if that makes you feel better.
And he did. He felt better knowing that these people weren't going to be around anymore.
You never know until it actually happens, because with the legal system, anything could happen.
And he said, I wish to God that my daughter could have just died that easily. Put a needle in her arm and just go to sleep. I wish to hell he could have died the way that she had died. Jose Medin appealed his execution. He said that he was a Mexican citizen and he had been unable to confer with the Mexican consular officials. The prosecutor said that he never informed authorities that he was a Mexican citizen. So now he's grasping for straws as it's coming to the end of the line here for him.
Yeah.
On August 5th, 2008, his last-minute appeals were rejected by the Supreme Court. He was executed at 9:57 p.m. 17 years after Elizabeth and Jennifer's murders, now it's Peter Cantu's turn.
Which should have came first.
Right. He was executed on August 17th, 2010. When asked if he wanted to make a final statement, he looked up and said, nah. Yeah, that's how seriously he took it. No remorse through and through.
Well, it's good that he's gone.
He was given the injection at 6:09 p.m. He died at 6:17 p.m. He ended up being on death row longer than Elizabeth and Jennifer even had a chance to live. Jennifer's family said that they were looking forward to his execution, so Peter never had the opportunity to hurt anyone ever again. Randy rejected an invitation from Peter's lawyer to come to his office and read a letter of apology. And he said, it's a little too late. And I told him to stick it. Hell no.
Good for him.
Oh, Randy. Oh, he was a force to be, reckoned with.
Well, yeah, you'd killed his little sweet daughter.
So in the end, 6 members were sentenced, 3 were executed, 3 remain in prison. Venancio, who was 14 at the time of the murders, has been denied parole on several occasions, most recently in 2020. He has a scheduled release date of 2033. Because again, he was given 40 years, which is the maximum that a juvenile could be given. He spoke with the media from prison in June of 2023. It was basically almost 30 years to the day of the murders. He said that night had been the first time he had ever hung out with his brother and his friends. When asked why he didn't leave to get help, he said that he just wanted to be accepted by the group, as well as his fear that the group would then turn on him. He said that when he saw the belt go around one of the girls' necks as she was being led away, he was frozen in fear. Looking back, he realizes that anything he has felt since that night is nothing in comparison to what the 2 girls went through on the night they were murdered. He expresses his sorrow for what happened. He wishes he could take it back. Jennifer's parents relocated to the peaceful countryside of Lyons. They were eager to escape the constant reminders of the brutality of how their daughter's life, as well as their best friend's life, ended. Sadly, Jennifer's father, Randy, passed away from lung cancer on August 18th, 2014 at age 61. A memorial plaque is displayed at Waltrip High School, where both Jennifer and Elizabeth were students. There is another displayed in T.C. Jester Park, where 2 granite benches sit with each girl's name inscribed close to where the girls' lives ended. Both girls are buried at Woodlawn Garden Memories Cemetery. They're within sight of each other's graves. And every year on the anniversary of their death, where they lost their lives, they do a balloon release to honor the victims. And that is the terribly sad and tragic story of the murders of Elizabeth Pena and Jennifer Ertman.
That's really hard. What do you think about Venancio? He was very young.
He was very young.
14, and you can understand a little bit. Obviously, he had to go to jail, but you can understand how he was probably scared of Peter. Peter's a loose cannon that would probably kill anybody.
Oh, a million times over.
And then I don't know if he knew his brother killed somebody already, Jose. He probably did because they seem to talk quite a bit. So it's just like these guys. And then they just, I'm sure he just got his butt beat by, one of those guys, Raul or whatever, in that previous thing.
Right.
So it's like, this is a serious thing for like a 14-year-old. Not saying that he's like innocent of anything, but.
Because he's only a few years younger than these guys.
Yeah. And that's a big difference, like mentally, between 14 and 16, 17, whatever. Like, so I hope that he can be rehabilitated. It sounds like he has the right mindset, being like, listen, I go through hell every day. And it's not even close to what these people have gone through, or those poor girls. I hope he can turn out to be something decent.
I hope so. I mean, he seemed very remorseful when he was talking to the reporter that I watched the video of.
Yeah, whereas Peter, go to hell.
I mean, he was a wild animal.
Yeah.
Worse than an animal. But they did describe it like there's gazelles and lions. If you ever watch a National Geographic show, that's basically what these guys were. They were the lions and the girls were the gazelles. They were just vicious animals, these boys.
Yeah.
And obviously it's that thought process and numbers that there were 6 of them and they fed off of each other. And, Peter was the ringleader and just so violent and vicious and awful. And, people made comments on Reddit article that I had read that had they been, in just a group of 2, odds are it wouldn't have happened. It was that they had that safety in numbers type of group mentality, like Lord of the Flies mentality.
Yeah. And people have already murdered within the group, and this was just another murder, and it's just sick.
And it just goes to show that, like, it's just so sad that these little tiny tweaks in our decisions can change our lives. Like, had the girls been thought about curfew 15 minutes earlier, they'd be alive today, likely, because they would have taken their usual path home.
Yep.
And just one little change, like a sliding doors moment, and their lives just end at 14 and 16.
Well, it's good that we can remember them, and it's horrible, obviously, that they're gone.
And it just sickens me that the 2 that were like up for death row can be released in such a short period of time, in 5 years.
Well, Texans, do your jobs and make sure that they're never released, right?
I'd be happy if they stayed in prison for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. So thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. If you appreciate the effort and time that Allison puts into researching these cases, there's over 40 bonus episodes available on Patreon or Apple subscriptions. So go ahead and check it out. I want to say welcome to our latest Crime and Coffee Couple Club members, to Bianca and Anne. And if you are a Apple subscription member, then feel free to send us your name and we can shout you out here.
If you want a shout out.
Yeah. Then go ahead and send it.
We'll shout you out.
Oh, gosh.
You didn't like that?
Maybe. You got too close, I think, maybe. You were enjoying yourself. That's the important thing.
I had fun.
Yeah. And we are the Crime and Coffee Couple, and we're not drinking coffee right now because it's a little bit late in the afternoon here.
I know. I'm sorry. We apologize for that. And if I blasted anyone's earbuds out of their ears or blasted them out of their cars, my apologies.
No, it's all good.
I lost control for a second.
Anything else?
No, we just appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for listening. And until next time.
Bye.